Welcome back to our YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. I really want to thank you and appreciate you for taking your busy time to be part of this great show. I don't take your support for granted. Allow me to request you to subscribe to our channel if you are watching us for the first time. This is the greatest support that you can render to us. Just subscribing. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. This will allow YouTube to notify you whenever we release a video like this. Continue sharing our videos, and you can give this video many likes so that it can be recommended to many people. Thank you very much once again. For the second time running, the second term reopening of schools have been rescheduled. William Ruto said that the Ministry of Education has been directed to postpone the opening until further notice. That means that we do not know when schools shall be opened. And he mentioned that the raging floods have really caused havoc in the country. We know pieces of property have been destroyed. Some people have lost their lives, and there are schools that have even been destroyed, and people have been displaced. So to me, I think it was quite in order for the schools to be postponed. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to begin this show by reading for you a quote from the Bible. I'm a Christian. I don't know if you are an atheist or a Buddhist or a Muslim. Bear with me. You can refer to the book that guides you. In Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2, and I'm reading from New King James Version, it says, "When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, the people groan." When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when a wicked man rules, the people groan. You will decide for yourself as a country whether you are groaning or rejoicing, whether the people who are in leadership are righteous or wicked. That is upon you to decide. But it is in Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2. The second verse I want to read is coming from Proverbs 28, chapter 28 verses 15, which says, "Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a helpless people." Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a helpless people. It is upon you to decide again whether your leaders are like roaring lions as charging bears to the helpless people. First of all, do you believe Kenyans are helpless? Yes, we are. We are bedeviled by very many problems that I cannot mention. William Ruto postponed, and he mentioned it was because of the raging waters. Many Kenyans believe that this is just part of the order of plagues. It is like we are facing the wrath of God. We are facing the plagues like that which happened during the Egyptian time. And if you ask me, I join them. I'm one person who believes that we are under a curse or the wrath of God. Why? We have, is it blasphemy? We have really played around with the name of God as a country. We have very many fake prayer bands, and we want to use prayers to justify every illegality. This regime ascended to power by presenting themselves as a people of God and maligning the names of their opponents as people who are like Antichrist. And for the first time, I heard the church say that for the first time as a church, we have a candidate. They were even promised that they would have a cabinet slot as the church. To date, we still have some bishops, and I remember Ngwinyi Mutai, before he switched allegiance, nicknamed them the M-Pesa bishops, those who depend on brown envelopes. They don't care. They will not call upon the government when the government goes astray because they depend on the goodies from the government. So I'm one person who believes that all these things that you see are like plagues. During Uhuru Kenyatta, we had the locust and the corona pandemic. And then the question that one would ask, How do you compare William Ruto's style of managing disasters and calamities to that of Uhuru Kenyatta? Do you remember this quote? If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally. And I remember how Mutahi Kagwe pronounced it and it was being influenced by his native kind of accent. And it was very funny. If we continue to behave normally, this disease will treat us abnormally. The way Uhuru regime managed the corona pandemic, at some point they even reduced, interest rates on banks and even M-Pesa, and they introduced kazi kwa vijana. You know how they did it. How do you compare this? And I want to fault William Samoei Ruto the way they treat the disaster. First, the first time they postponed the opening of schools, it was announced at night. And I remember some parents were calling me, they were telling me that, Achando, we had, placed our children on buses and they were going to school because they want to do it mapema. They say mapema is best. Then all of a sudden you are told at night that we have postponed. Where have they been all this time? Can't they have their meetings and consultations? Then they, communicate on time. And then, we have a nation that the court say we are not supposed to take our policemen to Haiti. Then Rachel says that we have a prayer band and we want to pray for our policemen who are going to Haiti. Not bothering that we are going against the court. The government realizes that the meteorological department has said that we are about to get rains. Then Ruto says we are calling upon, we are organizing for a nationwide prayer so that God can bring rains. And it's depending solely on the meteorological report. And then when we have this downpour, then say God has answered our prayers. One person who believes that without God we are nothing. But we should not let ourselves behave in a manner like we are blaspheming against God. Now, William Ruto, apart from giving information at night that we have postponed the reopening of schools, even if we take an example of the rains that are now wreaking havoc in the country, when the meteorological department told us that we were about to get strong rains, heavy rains that were to the strength of El Nino, the president of the country, the CEO of the country, without being compelled by anybody, went and told us that he had prayed to God and God had agreed to reduce the rains. It was not going to be heavy rains. How can we? That a president told, he was going against the report from the meteorological department, that we have prayed and God has told us that there are not going to be those heavy rains. Now you can see what is happening. And that's why I'm asking you, compared to Uhuru Kenyatta, was Uhuru such reckless with his statements? When there was corona, it was corona, and period. And they cautioned people to be very careful. That was Ruto overruling a report from people who have been employed, people who have gone to school, and that is their area of study. Then it tells us that there will not be rains. Now, who do we ask? Where is that same God he asked and told him that they will not have heavy rains when people are now dying? We are not prepared. The UDA government is not prepared at all. Apart from reckless statements, I want you to remember that just the other day, when we had that calamity and people died in Mai Mahiu, when the KDF joined the rescue team in Mai Mahiu, when they joined the NYS and the Red Cross, it was reported that there were lack of equipment. Some bodies were stuck in the tunnel and they did not know what to do. And I was like, how can we? If the KDF is our last resort and that the people are crying for that they don't have any better tools, then where are we and who do we ask? And that's why I'm telling you that lack of preparedness is something that will kill this nation. And I give an example of if Raila today would say that next month the Azimio supporters will go to the streets to protest, very fast they will procure for tear gas and rubber bullets and live bullets. and that will be their priority. But when the meteorological department told us that we would have heavy rains, we would have prepared for all these disaster and calamities. We were not, and that's why in my mind we are told that bodies are still missing because we do not have better equipment. And that's why I'm telling you that we are not prepared. There's something that Raila Molo Odinga was saying today that I want us to look at. Raila is saying that they knew the rains will increase, but they did not take any action. Now they are telling Kenyans to go to higher grounds and climb hills. Where are the hills? You know, you might think that Raila is joking, but Raila is simply telling them this is lack of preparedness. We are not proactive. We are supposed to know that this is the report, we are about to get heavy rains, and so we prepare for it. Do we even have the money for disaster management? Because I'm sure after Ruto said that he had prayed to God that there would not be heavy rains, most of the counties and the government, the way corruption is raging in the government, they ate all that money. So we are not prepared at all. And that's why I'm telling you that we fault this government. You know, our schools have really suffered that. I even sympathize with our children. First of all, there was lack of capitation fee, did not reach on time. Machogu himself, who is the Minister of Education or the Cabinet Secretary in that docket, said he has written many letters to the Ministry of Finance to release funds. The funds are not released. In Baringo, people stopped going to school because bandits are killing even their teachers. I remember we were told of how bandits raped some. Was she a 13-year-old student? And at some point they killed a blind teacher. And schools have been closed there. In fact, the late General Gola met his death when he went to supervise the reconstruction of schools that were destroyed by bandits in those bandit-infested areas. So our schools have really suffered so much that when you see them being postponed again, then you wonder what is happening. We are facing a calamity, and I believe we are also facing the wrath of God because the leaders who are in power are not doing any better. We have taken the name of the Lord for granted. We use the name of the Lord to campaign. We use the name of the Lord when we want to demolish our competitors. And we no longer think that God is this mighty creator, redeemer. We simply take him for granted. And personally, that's why I believe that we are suffering as a nation because the leaders who are on top are unrighteous. Like I said, when Russia's leaders are in power, people rejoice. But when we have wicked leaders, we groan. And as a country, we are groaning. Floods are raging. Doctors are on strike. You can name every kind of disaster that we are going through. And I don't know which, in the order of plagues, I don't know whether we are in number 2 or 3. I don't know. But it is not good. I think if there is a prayer that we need as a country, it's not a prayer from the prayer bands and the M-Pesa bishops that are waiting for brown envelopes. Each and every family should kneel down at their homes and pray for fellow Kenyans. Because what is happening in the country is not very, very normal. Accidents, floods, doctor strike. You could look at the way things are moving and you realize this is not normal. Schools have been postponed, school opening. I don't know up to when. And I don't know whether there's another disaster that will befall us before schools are opened. The other time, the exams were messed up by this very regime, both KCPE and KCSE. Where are we? We are killing our future. We are killing the future of our children. And it is all because we have some people who are on power. I don't know whether they were prepared. That seat is very hot. I don't know what to think, but that is my take.